Is Chris Holtmann on the hot seat predicting what channel will broadcast the Ohio State versus Notre Dame game? But we open today's show discussing Harry Miller's appearance on the Today Show. All that and more right here on Locked On Buckeyes.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes, part of Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Tuesday, March 22nd in the year 2022, and this episode of Locked On Buckeyes is brought to you by Stat Hero. Stat Hero is reshaping the way you play fantasy sports. Dozens of house-based games to play daily. No sharks, no funky props, just your skill versus the lineups you choose. Sign up today at stathero.com/lockedon. I would also like to thank everyone out there for making Locked On Buckeyes their first listen of every single day. When Harry Miller announced his retirement and opened up about his struggles with mental health, it was an eye-opening thing to many people out there, many fans, many people wondering, where's Harry Miller? Why isn't he on the field? Why isn't he practicing? Why are there no reports coming out about him and his absences from the Ohio State football practices and games? He retired, talked about how he wanted to commit suicide. In his interview with the Today Show, he talked about how he told his mom at 8 years old he wanted to kill himself. There's a lot of things that are really deep here that normally would not be at the top of the show, but this is so important. I wanted to open the show up with talking about Harry Miller, getting some more insight into who he is as a person, and really helping everyone understand this is a heavy topic, this is a big topic, and this is something that I'm sure Harry Miller is not the only person at Ohio State that is struggling with things mentally. It's just nice that he opened up about them. On the Today Show, they talked about how he actually mentioned he just came back from Nicaragua. He does some mission work over there, really helping the people that are less fortunate, really helping people in general. And you could tell when he was talking about it, he loved every second of it. He loved the connections that he has made. He loves the ability that he has to help people. He loves seeing people that are gravitated towards him for him just being a human being, him just being a person that they can lean to, have fun with, all of those things. But it didn't take long during this interview on the Today Show for Harry Miller to start crying and for you to see the hurt and for you to see the hesitancy from him to really open up about these things here. It's hard. I'm a person that I don't like to open up about things that are delicate or that are touchy or things that are personal. I don't like to do that. That's never been my thing. Now, you may say, Jay, I don't mind doing it. Great. That is you. But for me, I don't like doing it. I have my own struggles. I may talk about them at some point here on the podcast, but I don't like doing those things at all. But Harry Miller knows his platform. Harry Miller understands the things that he is as a football player and the ability that he has to touch so many people by simply being an Ohio State football player and by simply being a person that has this platform. He wants to be able to use it properly and wisely to help more people that have really struggled in ways that he has struggled himself. Harry Miller said a couple things that were interesting to me that he was not afraid or ashamed to talk about on TV. He talked about how sometimes with his struggles that he ends up hearing things, reading things, people say on Twitter, on social media. Maybe he might get voice messages, which I hope he does not get, but he might get voice messages from people, from fans after games where people told him literally, transfer, you suck. Like, you might not say that, but these are the things, the vicious, vile things that are being sent to the athletes all across, not just college football, but all across America, all across the world. People are saying in college, specifically for this little excerpt, the next one you'll hear, understand that as well. People are saying transfer you suck after a bad game, and they can't tell you what he did that's bad. They just say, oh, I've heard on the broadcast that you did something wrong. I didn't see it myself, but I want you to take what I heard on the broadcast and say you had a bad game. And Harry Miller's like, come on. Like, no matter if you know the game or not, why are you saying those things to someone at all? Now, you and your friends, you and your buddies, maybe you and your family, you may say certain things to them that you feel they're comfortable with you saying. You might be a person that likes to talk trash to your friends and really get on them and make fun of them. But there's always that line that you don't cross. Last night, literally, I was talking to one of my friends and they said, don't say this. They know that I joke around. They know that I like to be nice to people. They know that they know me very well. But they said, don't say this to me. It wasn't something vicious, vile, or anything. But they said, don't say this to me. I don't respond well to it. It's just in your best interest to not do that. So be it. It's a line that has been drawn. And as a friend, as a human being, I'm going to follow said line and not cross that line so that things do not get crazy wild in our friendship. That's how things are. But fans consistently cross that line. Fans consistently go too far. Fans consistently think, what they say it needs to be put out for the world to see. No, it does not. It does not. My mama told me, I'm sure your mama may have told you as well. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Keep your mouth shut. That's it. It's simple. Keep your mouth shut. And to hear Harry Miller talk about the things that he has received, messages he has received after games, I know for a fact that played into the mental struggles that he has had while on the field, while being a human being. I know for a fact it has. Because if you constantly hear, transfer you suck, transfer you suck, transfer you suck, at some point the human element in you is going to be like, hey man, this is too much, I can't handle it. He's also heard that some of his teammates have received death threats. It's too much. Dial it back. If you feel like you're a person that needs to say that to a player or a person, keep your mouth shut. Said it once, I'll say it again. If you ain't got nothing nice to say, keep your mouth shut. It's that simple. Seeing Harry Miller talk about this on that platform was huge. It was amazing. I loved it, seeing it, loved watching it, and I hope everyone that watched it learned something, and I hope those that were struggling while watching Harry Miller open up about his own struggles feel more comfortable to go to someone else to get the help that they need. Thank you, everyone, for the YouTube subscriptions that keep coming in. We're right around 800 subscriptions. Keep them coming. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live. And then make sure you hit the like button on this video and every video on this channel. We will be going forward talking about spring practice. Pro Day is tomorrow. We will be talking about the Pro Day and what you can expect at Ohio State's Pro Day. And then I believe next week I'm working on getting some scouting reports from some scouts to talk about Liddell and Brandon and what they could be as pros, discuss some mock draft things that I have seen and from them, specifically Malachi Brandon, because it might be his time to go to the NBA after only 1 year in Columbus. Many of you, when you heard at the top of the show that we're going to talk about Chris Holtmann, is he on the hot seat? You're like, ooh, yeah, I like this. Jay's going to talk about Chris Holtmann. Is he on the hot seat? And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know. I know what I think should happen, but I don't know if he's on the hot seat right now based off the way the season has gone, based on the way that Gene Smith has viewed things. And let me explain to you why. My own personal opinion of Chris Holtmann, he is a good basketball coach. I wouldn't say elite. I wouldn't say great. I wouldn't say average. He's above average, but he is a good basketball coach. But simply being a good basketball coach does not help have you keep your job. It doesn't. Shaka Smart. I think Shaka Smart is a good basketball coach. But he didn't keep his job. I believe he's been fired before. There are coaches all throughout college basketball that are good basketball coaches. I apologize for everyone that's on the YouTube that's seeing me right now. My microphone with the system is having issues with the volume. So if you see me keep moving my hand around, just trying to keep the volume at a level that's not too high. and not too low. Chris Holtmann, if he's on the hot seat, I can see it. I can see that he's feeling the pressure. I can see that. I can hear it in his voice. I can hear the things that he is saying. I could completely understand why he might be feeling more pressure right now than he has throughout his entire tenure at Ohio State. I noticed it during the middle of the season, how his demeanor kind of changed and how he started to say things that he hadn't said previously. Normally, his coach speak is the same, and he kind of answers questions in a nice, polite, jovial kind of a response. I've noticed a little side of Chris Holtmann that I haven't seen. I don't even think I've seen this at Butler, where Chris Holtmann is the coach and he seems like he's a little annoyed. That's the word. Annoyed, perturbed. That's another word I was looking for. He seems like he is not happy with the way things are going, and he's feeling a little bit more pressure because you're 5, no trip to the Sweet 16. You've had plenty of talent. Ohio State basketball program is not a program where you're going to be saying, "Oh, we're going to be doing all of these amazing things because we're Ohio State." We're not. They're not Duke. They're not North Carolina. Expectations at Ohio State are not what Indiana basketball fans have for them. However, at some point, you don't want to be the only program in the winter where you got the women winning a national championship in hockey. I believe the Pistol team is doing some big things. I think they won a national championship recently as well. The women basketball team is going to the Sweet 16. You don't want to be the only one that's not having postseason success. And if you're looking at every other program, just simply in your block of the school window that is playing sports right now, and you're saying, well, they got that, and they got that, and they got that. Where are we at? We at home. I'm going fishing. No, I'm going recruiting. I'm going recruiting, not fishing. I'm going recruiting. So Chris Holtmann, I know he's feeling it. I can feel that he's sensing the things. I personally would give Chris Holtmann one more year. I would stick with the one more year thing, at least one more year, and say, Chris, look, something has to change. This is 2 years of the same defensive struggles. This is 2 years of the same scoring droughts in the second half. This is another year where if Kyle Young goes down, this team is completely different, and he is not the best player on the team. However, a lot of times your X factor is not somebody that is your best player on the team. Now, granted, you would think if Liddell goes down, if Brandon goes down last year, if Junior went down, you would say, okay, great. Like, that's a damper. That's going to hurt you. But even last year in the NCAA tournament against Oral Roberts, this year in the NCAA tournament versus Loyola and versus Villanova, when Kyle Young was on the court, there was a difference. When he was not on the court, there was a difference there as well. It's just the way the cookie has crumbled. I would give him one more year and say, look, you're losing 7 guys. You got a good recruiting class coming in based off these recruiting rankings, but that don't mean nothing on the court. Show it to me. Prove it to me. 20 wins, you don't keep a job. You've had 20 wins every year you've been at Ohio State, including the COVID year, the year that was shut down, no Big Ten tournament and no NCAA tournament as well either. No tournament there. But you gotta change some things. Tap into the portal. Get some experienced ball players. Get a guard in, maybe a point guard that can do some big things on the court. Get those things done. You do those things. You make some improvements. Drastic improvements, speed up the pace of play. Yeah, you'll win some more games. Sweet 16, maybe. It's possible. But we got to get some more success. We can't have the same old results at Ohio State. 20 wins, little issues in Big Ten play. Ohio State honestly had issues in non-league play, in the non-conference as well, playing some mid-majors. And I'm like, why is Ohio State so close with these guys? It is not just because Justice Suing wasn't on the court. It wasn't. They had other issues there. Chris Holtmann, one more year. You are kind of in a similar situation, not as drastic as Ryan Day was. When Ryan Day knew this offseason, he wasn't on the hot seat, but he had to fix things immediately, and he has done so far. Same for Chris Holtmann. He needs to change things immediately, right now, make some changes. I think he can. The hesitancy that I think we're going to see do I think Chris Holtmann is going to go to the portal and get guys that are high quality D1 level basketball players, or really go out and get another? I said Cedric Russell, who just basically is a bench player, not even a sixth man, not heavily in the rotation. And then when you need some points, you need some buckets, and during a comeback, he's on the bench. He'll help you beat Duke, but when it matters most, potential last game of the season, nah. And if I hear somebody, I don't know this, but if I hear somebody say, well, Cedric Russell doesn't practice well. Oh, okay. Does practice mean you should not play on the court in the game? Some might say yes. But then there's a belief there are some guys that aren't good practice players. They're gamers. When the lights are on the biggest stages, they shine the brightest. Maybe that's Cedric Russell. I don't know. But from what I've seen when he's on the court, there's a difference with this offense. There's a difference with him, and he is a person that draws attention, gravitates attention, opens up passing lanes, opens up cutting lanes, and makes things easier for everybody else on the court. So, if you say Chris Holtmann didn't play him because he's not a good practice player, I say, okay, great. Does what happened in practice dictate outcomes of games? Nah. Are there guys that are bad practice players that or not the best practice players that end up doing well in games? Absolutely. Chris Holtmann's made some questionable decisions. I'll give him one more year. I don't think Gene Smith is going to fire him. From what I've heard, what I've read, I don't think Gene Smith is planning on firing him anytime soon. And he credited the recruiting rankings when talking about possible extension or when he'll look at one and things like that and how he views Chris Holtmann's tenure as Ohio State's head basketball coach. Holtmann has to fix things quickly, quick, fast, and in a hurry. Because if he doesn't, he might not be in the Buckeye basketball program much longer. Guys, talked about the pro day, but I'm definitely going to be looking to do some more player improvements or things players need to talk about or work on in the offseason for the basketball team. There's enough guys coming back, not too many, that we can discuss some things about, hey, so-and-so needs to work on, Zed Key needs to work on X, Y, and Z. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to do some more basketball profiles, how they did this year, things they can improve on to make the team better, be the best player they can be. And so a few weeks ago, or maybe it was a couple weeks ago now, when the news came out that Troy Aikman would be going to ESPN to be the color commentator for Monday Night Football, and then that Joe Buck would possibly be following him, the news came out that Joe Buck had 1 year left on his deal with Fox. Okay, great. Buyouts, those things happen all the time. But those were things that came out there about Joe Buck. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, great. A couple days later, after the initial report, it came out that Joe Buck would be leaving Fox a year early out of his contract to go to the worldwide leader to be the play-by-play broadcaster for Monday Night Football. And I firmly think this is something that ever since Mike Tirico and John Gruden left Monday Night Football, I think that ESPN has been clawing and grabbing and scratching and trying to find a great duo. I have no problem with Steve Levy, Greasy, or Riddick. I have no problem with them. I don't think that they are that amazing to where if you can get Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, you keep Buck and Aikman away and you leave Levy, Greasy, and Riddick. Greasy's gone to coach somewhere. Levy is still at ESPN. ESPN might get 2 Monday Night Football games. It could be Levy and Riddick, which I would not mind that at all. But we'll just see what happens. But when it came out that Buck was going to Fox, going to ESPN, it did later come out that ESPN was going to be giving up one of their Big Ten football games to go to Fox. And many Buckeye fans were wondering, would it be the Ohio State-Notre Dame game, week number 1? It's going to bring in money. It's going to bring in ratings. It's going to bring in all of those things. Now, I don't know which network is going to get the game. We're going to discuss it in a little bit. There is a little drafting system that they do. You get the biggest game. Fox gets the biggest Big Ten game. Then it goes back and forth. Fox, ESPN, Fox, ESPN, Fox, ESPN. And it goes by biggest, basically the week. It's not the game that they pick. It's that week. And so Fox has had the Ohio State-Michigan game for a few years now. I think the last time that ESPN had it, called it, was when Curtis Samuel scored the game-winning touchdown on the left side of the end zone. Fowler and Herbstreit had the call of that one. I forget the exact year of that, but I do believe that was the last time ESPN called the game. So with that game off the table, with that game being at Fox, for me, I'm wondering, where will Ohio State Notre Dame be? My assumption was before it would be at ESPN. Once it came out that ESPN did not give up the rights to that game, that they gave up the Penn State versus Purdue game, which is a Thursday night game. It will be on Fox. ESPN already has a game that day, that same day, September 1st. West Virginia versus somebody is the game ESPN has. And I still think, I've thought for a very long time, Ohio State-Notre Dame is a primetime game, game day edition, week number 1, to start off the 2022 season. I firmly think that before. I thought that then. I still think that now. I know a lot of people were wondering, well, if it's on Fox, when they heard that there was going to be a trade of a game between Fox and ESPN when ESPN got Joe Buck, many people thought, well, no, Ohio State and Notre Dame is going to be on a big noon kickoff. It's going to be a 12 o'clock noon kick. And I was like, probably, but there's also the possibility that if Fox had the game, that Fox would go ahead, put it in prime time, maximize the ad revenue space that they have, maximize the eyeballs, the ratings. Week number 1, everybody's going to be watching football all day, especially the nightcap on whatever network you want to watch. Some of you may know Notre Dame has a TV contract with NBC, but since this game is in Columbus, NBC does not broadcast Notre Dame away games. Most of the time they do not. It's all about broadcasting the home games. And even then, when they broadcast Notre Dame home games, Notre Dame has that 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time window on NBC, and that's something that they've had for a very long time. They have their own window. There generally aren't games that start at 2:30 because NBC wants to dominate that space. I think now, Ohio State, Notre Dame will be on ESPN, a 7:30 kickoff, maybe 8, depending on how they want to schedule things and things like that. But it'll be a 7:30 kickoff. Well, get on TV, probably going to kick off 15 minutes later. Fowler and Herbstreit on the call. Sidelines, probably Holly Rowe. And that'll be a fun game. I'm excited for it. Been looking forward to this for a long time. But as I know, many of you out there were wondering when you heard that ESPN was giving up one Big Ten game, giving it to Fox, you said, man, would it be Ohio State, Notre Dame? They're not giving that game up. That's not saying that Fox cannot draft that game, but I still think that game between those two college football powers will be on the worldwide leader. Guys, thank you so much for tapping into today's show. It's been fun. It's been enjoyable. I look forward to coming back tomorrow, the rest of the week, talking pro day expectations, talking more basketball, and talking about some things that you guys have or maybe curious about leading up to the NFL draft. You can follow me on Twitter at jsteven07. Thanks, guys, for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. Now make sure to check out the Locked On NFL Draft, the podcast. They have a mock draft out that their host, Ryan Tracy, and former NFL cornerback Eric Crocker put together. Top 10 draft. Each person got 5 picks. I haven't listened to it just yet, but it's on my list of things to listen to. I'm going to head to the gym here soon after uploading this podcast, and I'll definitely go out and have that on while I'm getting a good sweat in. They bring the NFL draft to life with the mock draft that they had on today's show. It's a great example of that. They have insight, analysis on college football prospects and NFL front offices. Just like the Locked On NFL Draft podcast and Locked On Buckeyes, both podcasts are available and they're free wherever you get your fine podcast.